this double life that the elite and the people that really are, shaping the direction of this world, push, and people should at least be able to admit that they're not being told the whole truth about that. So yeah, and as far as people bugging you about not being a Christian, I thought we were part of the freedom movement. How about you give people the right to choose to worship God in whichever way they want, even if that choose that they don't worship God. How about we give freedom to others? You can't just have freedom for yourself. You got to give freedom to everyone else. So I just that's really pure hypocrisy that people in the Patriot movement could actually really be offended that you're not Christian. That's just I do not see how they rationalize that.
Yeah, and I grew up a Christian. I can't tell you how many times I've been to church. I grew up in a church, in a very Christian family. My mother's sisters did not send their kids to regular school. They went to Christian academy, and I remember them coming home with, math worksheets with Jesus Christ on them and every other thing. And, I used to have to sit in the front row of church and have to go to Sunday school as well. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I am just a person who doesn't admit to having all the answers. I am not a know-it-all. I want to put that out there right now. I am a human being. I make mistakes. I am not going to be right 100% of the time. No one is going to be right 100% of the time, because if you were able to achieve that, you would actually be God. If you were omnipresent and omniscient on every single point of view, you're godlike. And I am not. I am a human being. And I'm just not arrogant enough to say, this is the exact way. I mean, how many sects of Christianity are there out there? There's infighting between the Methodists and the Protestants and the Baptists. And I am a big umbrella guy. I want people to, get involved that believe in the Constitution, that believe in the Bill of Rights, that believe in individual freedom. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a quote from Socrates that says, "True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. That makes you smartest of all." And that's the philosophy that Jeff Grupp and I, use on Antimatter Radio, Black Helicopter Radios. We know nothing. We're just, I mean, no, we all know nothing. If we have that type of attitude, we always have an open mind. We're all in this together, just trying to figure this out. And things like your documentaries and the work you've done, and then hopefully the work that Jeff Grupp and I have done, is helping not only ourselves but all the audience just get a grasp on this crazy world we live in, and then also, and then hopefully we give advice on real solutions. And one solution, I think people always say, give us solutions, we know there's a problem, how about solutions? Well, one solution is supporting each other. Like I said earlier, is just total independence, being trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. That's what I'm striving for personally. I am far from it. I'm a wage slave. I got to go to work every day, but I think independence we should all be striving for, just being as less dependent on the quote the system is possible, because there are as far as the future is looking, and I'm not trying to be negative, but as far as economic and everything else, I just see a decline coming, and I don't want to say it's going to be a huge crash all of a sudden tomorrow. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball, but from all the indicators, it does not look too promising as far as the economy. And so yeah, if you could give me some of your thoughts on that and the economic direction of the world and the USA.
Well, yeah, I've told people for years and years and years, get silver and gold. I was talking about gold when it was under $300 an ounce. That's a way to keep your wealth. And really, it's not that you're making money, it's that you have the same amount of money without the inflation of 6 or 7 years ago. That's all I was saying to people. That's a great way to maintain stability. I also tell people, don't use credit cards. Let me repeat that. Don't use credit cards. Why would you want to go into debt for something that you cannot afford? Pay for everything you can outright. Outright. Learn to save. Our parents and our parents' generations, that's what they did. They didn't go to the bank man to, go get a house. No, they saved up money, bought land, and in many cases, built their house themselves. We have such a lazy society, a why me society. Why me? Why don't I have the coolest cell phone? Why isn't my car neato? It's all about status symbols and not reality. Not reality. And we think that we can just borrow, borrow, borrow. We live in this culture of, entitlement. We live in a culture of entitlement. I deserve this. I deserve that. I don't have to work for it. I can sit here and play Xbox Live 360 all day long. Halo reaches out, baby. And I'm still supposed to be able to have an iPhone and a flat screen television and a 2010, Jaguar. All these like fairy tale thoughts without working hard for it. And then they wonder why 5 to 10 years later everything is repossessed and they're, living in a flea bag motel or they're out on the streets or, they're in the car, living in the car that they bought 5 years ago if it wasn't repossessed.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it's just in this total sense of entitlement. And actually, I don't think that's I mean, a big part of that is yeah, we've had it maybe too good. You know, our parents and our grandparents and our forefathers fought for so much and they worked so hard to get us to the point where we are. So we have this kind of, we've been eating good and having, all our basic needs taken care of so life. So but see the huge issue with that is that transfers over to this mindset that big brother should take care of everything. So that's why you have people that, like I remember when Obama gave a speech, there was this woman saying, "Now I don't got to worry about my gas. I don't got to worry about my my car." She was saying, basically, Big Daddy Obama is going to take care of everything. So this kind of childlike attitude that is handing, the government over, saying, "Please, government, take care of me," and the government says, "Sure, I'll take care of you," but there's going to be huge costs with that if we turn into this, dependent on government, dependent on food stamps, dependent, more and more just government, 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 and people sadly, I just see this move towards, this like you said, this entitlement attitude, and then that carries over, to people voting for the socialist, legislation of, big daddy government take care of me, and that never turns out good when you look at, past societies and cultures. So, and we know, and the people that are running the government are not some of the most savory people. They have very sadistic and, let me just say it, evil, desires. They want to lower populations. They want complete and total control. So, they'll try to sell it to you as like, hey, we'll take care of your basic needs, but the cost will be your freedom. And then from there on, it'll get pretty ugly. And ultimately, they'll just, they'll start lowering populations. They'll say, hey, if you want to have government housing, how about we, you've already had 2 kids, you're gonna have to sterilize yourself. So it's just when people give over all that. What's that? There's that famous quote. I think is Benjamin Franklin says, "Those who sacrifice liberty for security deserve they'll get neither." So that's what we're seeing happen today, I think.
Absolutely. And, I can't just blame people. They have been manipulated on a mass level. This is a psychological operation as much as anything else. But really, we have to stop being 30-year-old children, okay? We have to man up, when you're 21 and you can drink and you can serve your country and you can get a job, it's time to start acting like a child on every single level. Okay, there's time to watch sports. I'm a huge MMA fan. I don't miss a UFC event or a Dream event or any of the King of the Cage. I mean, I watch all these things, and guess what? I still have time to keep up with what's going on in the world. You can still play your video games, but make informed decisions. Get involved in local politics. Take the time to talk to your children about what they're doing in school. There are so many real solutions out there that people just don't want to hear. They want the magical solution where you flip a switch and everything's going to be A-OK. Or they want you to say that you want violence so that you can basically be ostracized and targeted
Uh-huh.
by these Southern Poverty Law Center groups. They don't want the real solutions. If you don't like what's going on, do a radio show, make a movie, talk to your kids, spread somebody else's movie throughout the neighborhood, run for your city council's office, get involved in your local PTA, coach the little league team. There are so many ways to entrench yourself in your local community so that you can communicate with other human beings, because we really lost that now. We don't really communicate with each other. We have our small little cliques, and if somebody disagrees or goes outside of that clique, they're out of the loop. They're kooky, or we don't want to talk to them. We want to have them out to dinner. Talk to your friends and families and neighbors and start making communities again. And then we'll have more informed decisions. Then we'll know where the power structure lies. You watch this Tea Party movement get hijacked by the Tea Party Express, and these supposed elitists on the right. But if you look at it, who is it really? It's really, Council on Foreign Relation members like Newt Gingrich and establishment types. That's what it really is. And they're co-opting the people finally figuring out that there is no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Yep, that goes into my point exactly what you just said. The fact that they make the Tea Party Express makes it seem like, oh, you're fighting the big evil government, you're anti-establishment, but then really when you look at who's really pulling the strings and you get far into it and you find out there's these CFR members, then you're like, oh crap, I just woke up from this dream and I'm actually what the reality is you're in the same room as the people you claim to be fighting. That is such a huge thing to realize, and I think if people could realize that and then just really look behind, who is promoting, things. Yeah, Tea Party Express is just as mainstream as they come. They are no different than the establishment. They just seem anti-establishment because they're quote right wing. But look at Bush. Was he any different than the elitists in power now? The Bush administration was just as bad. So yeah, and then you mentioned, communities is going back, to a more local, community. That's a great idea. I mean, if we had that type of mentality right now, maybe we wouldn't all have to be so worried about an economic collapse. Maybe if we were all focused, on the basics of growing food and things, how it used to be like that in America. There used to be so many people were farming. I think I heard a statistic of something like 80 to 90% of people during the Great Depression were actually living. They still were doing agriculture and they were growing their food. Now it's the opposite. Now it's something like 90+% or dependent on grocery stores. So and that's just all part of this slavery that the New World Order is bringing about. If they know if we're dependent on them, ultimately they own us and we are their slaves.
Absolutely. The more independent you can be from the system, the better.
Yep. All right, man. Well, we hit some pretty good points. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on?
Not really. I just want to encourage people to do their own research, get out there and make a difference. Don't sit in the fetal position. Don't act like you're powerless. Everybody has great power within them. And if you want to support me, you want me back on the radio, you can donate, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford to jasonisvoid@yahoo.com through PayPal, or go and get a hard copy Invisible Empire or Fabled Enemies. And if you can't afford to do that, just send the link to your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your brother, your sister, and get the word out.
Yep. So once again, that I interviewed Jason Bermas. He helped create Loose Change. He created Invisible Empire and Fabled Enemies, just to make sure people, if you haven't seen those, get those names in your head because those are all extremely impressive documentaries. I'm Ed Walker from Black Helicopter Radio. I will see you guys next week on Tuesday. All right, over and out. This double life that the elite and the people that really are shaping the direction of this world push, and the people should at least be able to admit that they're not being told the whole truth about that. So yeah, and as far as people bugging you about not being a Christian, I thought we were part of the freedom movement. How about you know you give people the right to choose to worship God in whichever way they want, even if
And the Protestants and the Baptists. And I am a big umbrella guy. I want people to, get involved that believe in the Constitution, that believe in the Bill of Rights, that believe in individual freedom. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a quote from Socrates that says, "True knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. That makes you smartest of all." And that's the philosophy that Jeff Grupp and I, use on anti. That choose that they don't worship God. How about we give freedom to others? You can't just have freedom for yourself. You got to give freedom to everyone else. So that's really pure hypocrisy that people in the Patriot movement could actually really be offended that you're not Christian. I do not see how they rationalize that.
Yeah, and I grew up a Christian. I can't tell you how many times I've been to church. I grew up in a church. I am a human being. I make mistakes. I am not going to be right 100% of the time. No one is going to be right 100% of the time, because if you were able to achieve that, you would actually be God. If you were omnipresent and omniscient on every single point of view, you're godlike. And I am not. I am a human being. And I'm just not arrogant enough to say, this is the exact way. I mean, how many sects of Christianity are there out there? There's infighting between the Methodist Christian family. My mother's sisters did not send their kids to regular school. They went to Christian academy. And I remember them coming home with, math worksheets with Jesus Christ on them and every other thing. And, I used to have to sit in the front row of church and have to go to Sunday school as well. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I am just a person who doesn't admit to having all the answers. I am not a know-it-all. I want to put that out there right